Hello A4LE members, and welcome to Puyallup School District.
And welcome to Dessie Evans Elementary, home of the Owls.
We want to express our thanks to NAC, and we're going to turn this tour over to them.
And we're very excited for you to see our new school.
Hi, I'm Philip Riedel.
Hi, I'm Teresa Alvarado.
We're looking forward to showing you Dessie Evans Elementary School today. I was the project manager on this project.
And I was the lead designer in this project. Thank you for being here with us today. We're excited to show you the inside of the building. But first, let's start by showing you around through the site.
You can see the length of the entry drive. That was part of the reason why we decided to push the school back, to provide a lot of drop-off lane and queuing space off of the street. Another reason is that the site was narrower near the entry, so it allowed us more space to place the building towards the back of the site.
Well, we played a lot with the layout of the building itself. There was a lot of topography to deal with. So what we came up with is a concept that we call the weaving through nature. And it starts with a very public area, which has the admin and the library and the gym. Then there's a break with the commons in the middle, which becomes like a gasket between the private and the public. And then you have classroom pods that have an arrangement. It's as if there was this weaving element through the site. And in between those that weaving element, there are these core areas that become the center of each classroom pod.
Moving around to the west side of the building, we can see the Stormwater Pond. The soils at this site were not very permeable, so we ended up with a large stormwater pond. You can see that from the building, and it almost becomes a feature of the site, and that leads you towards the service side of the site. This is where the trucks come to serve the kitchen and so on. There's also staff parking on this side, and now you can see the bus drop-off, providing a lot of length to be able to safely load and unload those buses.
And as Philip mentioned earlier, because of the shape of the building, there was a lot of discussion on whether the building should be pushed further north or if it should be further south towards the street, which is normally what we would see. But in this one, we did the opposite. We put the playfields on the front and the building on the north side. That way it would be more tucked in into nature. And also it allowed for the play areas to be more in the front of the site. That way they would become really available to the community.
I'm getting dizzy up here, so let's go down and see the entry to the building. You can hear some of the sounds from the playground. They're having a good time playing out there and playing some music. This area here is the drop-off, so that's the important length of drop-off for the arrival of all those students. And now we're going to move towards the front entry of the school.
So I just want to talk to you a little bit about the design intent of the exterior of the building. We try to stay with a lot of natural materials and with an expression that would fit the site. The site has a very natural setting, so we took some of the elements from nature to focus on some elements of the facade with random vertical expressions. And we also try to bring colors from nature, like this very bright yellow, to accentuate the entry into the administration. That way when you're far, you're really able to find the entry very easily and you're able to go into the building. We also have this other wood material out here, which we use that in some areas to accentuate that that's the node of some of the classroom pods. That's where the core activity happens for those classroom pods, and we wanted to express those from the exterior. And then for the rest of the materials, we just stayed with something very natural and more muted. That way the natural setting would really stand out.
You can see the library upstairs. We walk underneath that to come into the main entry. So we have a covered area here with the yellow that we're using to signify entry. And we'll just walk through the entry sequence. Of course, it's a secure vestibule setup. So this is the video camera where you can show your ID, and then you press this button to get them to buzz you in. And
Hi, someone will be right out.
thank you. There's also a card reader down here for teachers to be able to scan themselves in. Of course, we have a hand sanitizing station out here for COVID. You'll see that the school is much less fully occupied than it normally is. Thank you. So during the school day, these doors are locked, and that forces you to come into the main office entry. This is the waiting area. One thing that Puyallup has is these kiosks which have community information so that people can come in and find all that information on services. We have some nice colorful furniture here for people to wait, and this is the reception area. The reception was designed to have a lot of windows so that they can see everybody coming and going. And they have roller shades that screen out if there's too much sun. And now we're going to walk down to see the offices. The health room is here so that the reception staff can also keep an eye on kids in the health room. This is an area for kids if they're waiting to see the principal. And we're going to talk to Kevin Hampton, who is the principal of the school.
To manage this large of the school comes with a lot of challenges. But one thing I can confidently say, the open concept is ideal, which creates a positive climate automatically, and it's really bright. The way it's designed and the window structure, everything brings in a lot of the natural light, and it makes it really conducive, especially when you have a lot of students, and having the bright colors and the natural light really helps. A lot of our arrival comes from pickup and drop off. We've got a really long queuing area, which buildings of the past, when you don't have that area for parents to line up in their cars, come around and then park so that they can unload their students. That really makes a difference to have the large queuing area. The buses have the ability to line up all along there, so it's easy sight vision and the students can easy unload and load. And basically most of the entrances in the building are being used in the morning. For instance, we have the walkers coming in a certain way, we have our drop-off a certain way, and depending on where the students are going, they use that entrance with lots of adult supervision, pulling kids out of cars and escorting them to their classrooms. We have 3 large lunches. When we have over 1,000 students and you divide them into thirds, so we have 300 plus per lunches. And the great part of that is that we have enough seating area comfortably for all to sit, and the entrance and exit is fairly smooth. To be able to have the stage, the stairs, and to open the large wall to the stage, and then to go across the commons and open up the large movable wall to the gym, use the bleachers at the end of the gym. We've been able to put most of our upper level kids, our 5th and 6th grade, on the bleachers, and then we easily have enough room with students up to the stage area. So it makes for it's a great area for large gatherings when we're able to have large gatherings. The problem is that due to the high ceilings, sometimes the noise reverberation or the loud noises when you get that many students together and they're comfortable and they can talk freely will flow down to the classrooms, and sometimes it can create a lot of noise during lunch. And so I think in the future, one of the things we would do is put more sound deadeners in the room to where it can absorb that sound when large amounts of kids are in there. The pair of doors between the classrooms are used often, and that's a great feature to have, to be able to, when needed, combine, have students walk through. A lot of our teachers that are right next to each other do a lot of team teaching, and that provides that service so that they can go through without going back out into the hallway, come back into the other class. So it really makes it nice. The site itself is on 17 acres of forest. That's been a fantastic theme to have, is to have that natural lighting in. The way the building is set throughout the day, we have natural lighting all day long, and it's fantastic. And it's really nice because we have our own, built-in lighting, but oftentimes that's not even needed. And for example, we've had power outages where it's gone out briefly at a time. classroom can be conducted just by the natural light. It's not something you want to continue with, but just because of the position of the building and the way the light comes in, it's almost as if the built-in lighting is not necessary all the time. So, and that goes, that's the way it is in the classroom, but it's also that way in the commons and throughout the buildings, in the hallways, the way the windows are positioned and the way the building's positioned with the natural sunlight. The buildings really accommodated the large numbers.
Here are the rest of the administrative offices, similar to any school. We have the mailboxes here and the staff work area. In the back corner here, there's a nice conference room. So this is set up to have a view out to the playgrounds and accommodate a pretty large group for conferences. Here the teachers can access the mailboxes from the front, and this is the back door out of the admin. Here we can see the doors that let you in from recess when you're in the covered play area. And there's a restroom here. The restrooms don't have doors from the hallway. They have the sinks right out front, which is a pretty standard design. And then this is where we're starting the long corridor that connects the school all the way from the covered play down to the end of the classroom wings.
And we also have a stair here that leads you up to the library, because this portion of the building is the public area. And then we come into the commons. That becomes really the connector between the public activities and the more private activities in the classrooms.
Yeah, let's take a look in here. One of the first elements that you'll see is a wall graphic that was created to celebrate Dessie Evans and talk about one of her quotes. So Arnulfo is going to describe that for you.
The district wanted to create a mural to commemorate Dessie Evans, and we wanted to start with a speech that she gave her students in the district that starts with "Be the One." And I think this is a pretty good way of commemorating Dessie Evans, and we wanted to kind of bring that forward, as well as introducing the speech on the side. Along with that, we wanted to introduce and kind of integrate the 4 seasons that we have within the 4 stairs of winter, spring, summer, and fall. And you can kind of see those kind of sprinkled in throughout the whole tree. And along with Be the One, we wanted to put some Easter eggs in there for the students as well, to find some owls if they're really paying close attention in there. And I think a last strong element was the butterfly that Les wanted to talk about and bring into this, that really shows and talks about what a big impact you can have, even if it's a small gesture in the right direction.
Some of the design elements in the commons are these wood slats that we created for acoustic purposes, but we also try to stay with the theme of nature. So we gave it a look of like vertical trees, and you start to see some randomness at the top, so that it gives you that feeling of how the trees have these random heights. So yeah, that's how we decided to incorporate the acoustics for the commons.
The commons is a long rectangle, and that helps sort of avoid the feeling of everybody sort of being in one box a little bit. There are operable walls up to the stage and to the gym. There are skylights throughout this space and the gym to help balance the light that's coming from the end window down there. But through that window, you can see trees and green space, which helps make it a nice space for the commons. Let's go take a look in the gym. When this wall is closed, you can get into the gym through a little door. And the gym can be divided with this curtain into 2 sides, so they can make maximum use of it for PE. And now let's hear from Gary Frentress, the Director of Capital Projects.
Puyallup School District has been growing by 300 or 400 elementary students a year for a long time. And so capacity at that level has been strained, and the district wanted to kind of push the envelope on how big of a school could we build, and we thought having 6 classrooms per grade level and 1,000 students would be doable. Of course, there's a lot that goes into that, and how do you manage that, and what do those spaces look like, and what kind of a support system do you need to go with it was important. And so, you know, not making huge long corridors was an important element of that. And so as you go down the corridors, they're kind of offset here and there. The building doesn't feel as big as it actually is. And then doing pods for each grade level was also important, and you'll see that in the design. And so again, it gives a local neighborhood to each grade level. One of the design features of this building on the site, you'll see a lot of the community facilities, the soccer fields, the climbing toy, a lot of those things that can be used after hours are in the front of the school. And traditionally, a lot of times those tend to be in the back of the school. And so the design for this one is we wanted to have those up front and easily accessible for the community. Every classroom has an associated project space that's designed for both art, science, and pull-out kind of spaces, so you can work with kids individually or small groups. It helps from that perspective, but I think it's unique. At Dessie Evans, this is one of our first schools that we issued one-to-one devices for 4th through 6th graders. And also in every classroom, you'll have a large monitor in the front of the classroom and a somewhat smaller one towards the back, which those can be used together or independently, and it gives some flexibility to how you use technology within the classroom.
As we exit the commons, you can see the connection to both floors. This is a point at which the whole school comes together. And now we go back into the main hallway again.
And this school is very large. It's designed to hold 1,000 students. So we wanted to really give it a feel of smaller plots so that it wouldn't intimidate the kids. So something we did is instead of having a really straight long corridor, we broke it up into make it a little bit of a zigzag. And that way, as you're walking by, you start to get an experience of discovery. You're able to discover, on one side, you start to see the exterior, and you have exterior courtyards. And on the opposite side, you start to see these stairs that lead you to the 2nd floor. And they're color-coded so that they, in relation to the 4 seasons, and they also have a matching graphic. And that way, it becomes like a fun element for kids to identify how to move through the building. Instead of saying, let's go to, I don't know, wing A, they say, oh, let's go to the yellow wing, or let's go to the spring wing.
This happens to be the kindergarten wing, and it's set up a little bit differently from the other wings. This shared area has color-coded foam seating that plugs into the wall, and then they can bring that out for small group activities.
Something we did in the corridors within the classroom pods is to add this texture on the walls. That way the kids can have a sensory experience as they're walking through the building. As you can see, these textures are kind of fun to touch, and so yeah, it just gives a fun element for the kids.
And there's different textures in each wing, so it also adds to the wayfinding. So let's go and take a look at one of the kindergarten classrooms. The kindergarten classrooms are large. Since they're over 1,000 square feet, we need a second exit. They're set up for different activity areas. So on one end, we have resilient flooring where there are sinks and for messy projects. There's a separate bathroom for each kindergarten room. There's a project room, and there are different activity areas that the teachers set up around the room. So that's one advantage of having a little more elbow room that they can, the students can do different activities. And here's some footage of them having their choice time where they get to choose the different things that they do. Right now during COVID, it is more sparsely populated than normal, but this room can actually accommodate a lot of kids. And this one happens to have a view out towards the entry of the school and the playground beyond.
Each kindergarten classroom also has a dedicated space for kids to put their books and their backpacks, their jackets. That way, when they come into a room, they know where to go put their stuff and be able to have freedom within their classroom.
Now we're heading back into the main corridor, and we're going to head down to see some of the other classroom wings.
And something to notice as we're walking through the hallway is we have this sense of, we use the lights in the ceiling also to give a sense of, to break out the hallway. And they're normally offset to the side opposite from where you would get daylight from the outside. And as you're walking, you have a sense you're always getting outside and a stair with some more natural features. And each pod has 2 entries into it, and they both are highlighted by their color that is associated to that classroom wing.
Yep, we're passing the green wing now, heading towards the red wing. And each wing, the stair faces a window area, and that looks out onto a shared learning space. The shared learning areas were designed with logs that were salvaged from the existing site and boulders that were also salvaged from the site work. So that makes natural seating that the kids and teachers can use when they have a chance to get outside.
And those outdoor areas also have a straight wall and one that is angular. That way it really opens up out into nature as opposed to being more of an enclosed area as if you would have 2 parallel walls across from each other.
All the way along the hallways is tackable vinyl wall covering so that they have the maximum opportunity to display student work. Right now a lot of it is being used for notices for COVID. Here we are at the blue pod, and you can see that the mural that goes up here is also connected to a little part of the mural in this nook under the stairs. So this functions as another shared learning space.
So now let's hear from Les Gersman. He was a project manager for this project from the school district, and he was involved in the project all the way from design through the end of construction.
When we first started this project, as you know, it was a fully wooded site. Our first visits to the site, we put on heavy boots and a lot of protective clothing to trample through the brush to really get a good idea of what the site looked like and what the topography was, what kind of planting materials we had, what kind of wildlife was on the site. And so it was really quite interesting, and we immediately fell in love with the idea of bringing that forested experience to the students. And then we augmented what we had with the new landscaping around the building that fit in with the natural setting. So the whole thing comes across as a beautiful new facility in a natural setting. Our contractor came from Spokane, and they were a contractor that did a lot of work for universities. They did a lot of steel buildings, so they were used to that. The concept, the design concept for Dessie Evans was to do the common portion of the facility in steel, but to save money, we did the classroom wings in wood. And that provided us with what we thought were going to be some cost savings, and we were successful in bringing this project within budget, so that really helped. but it also brought on a number of challenges doing both steel and wood in the same building. Because Garco wasn't familiar with or had the crews to do wood construction, they had to attack that problem in the most efficient way possible. So they ended up purchasing a layout machine where they were able to panelize all of the wood construction on a large table on site that they built on site. And so they had a modular a factory assembly line going, putting out panelized construction. There was an effort to do as green a materials as we could afford, and so we have linoleum flooring throughout. Classrooms also have some carpet, but primarily linoleum flooring. A lot of attackable wall surfaces, and a lot of breakout areas for the kids. So breakout spaces was a big factor in the design. It's as large of an elementary school as I know of, with over 1,000 students. We have almost 44 classrooms in this building. And so to be able to organize that large of a building with that many classrooms and have children find their way to the classrooms is a big challenge. So the building was organized in 4 major wings, and each of those wings have their own theme, and the concept of the theme was to tie it to nature, so we did it for the 4 seasons, and each season has its color. And the stairwell for each pod exhibits the theme of the fall, winter, spring, and summer. And I thought it was a very effective way to identify each of the unique wings and make it easy for the children to find their classrooms.
We're back at one of the stairs. Here we are at the winter pod. We want to point out that the railings have a lot of transparency. That way, as you're walking through the hallways, you're able to experience this graphic. We've been talking about having graphics by the stairs. And what we did is that we took an image of the forest that was associated with a season, and we abstracted it. And we did that so that it wouldn't compete with the actual nature that you have on the other side opposite from it. And something that is fun about it is that you can try to find animals through it. So what we did was to keep consistency with the color all around. You can see it on the stair treads, on the stringers, all around the frame, the opening. And we also accommodated a skylight to bring light as you're going through the stairs and to accentuate the graphic.
That color gives us sort of a portal into each wing. So this is the blue wing, which is one of the typical classroom wings that's repeated throughout the school. We had a chance to have a conversation with one of the 5th grade teachers, so let's go and talk to her.
I love a lot of aspects of the classroom. So I love when they walk in, it's like the main part of the classroom is their space. And then kind of in the back corner, we have the library, we have like the small groups table, where they're still a part of the classroom, but it feels a little bit more private, or it feels, you know, a little bit more of like our space. And I and the students can still see everything else that's going on in the classroom. I also love the project room. I love the size of it. I love how lots of students can fit in there. I love how there's windows, so I can see in, they can see out and still be a part of the classroom. I love the technology in the classroom, the giant screen up front that's touchable, that moves up and down, that's super helpful for different size students. It's also, I love the lights and how you can turn them up and down, or you can just use the fronts, or you can just use the back. I personally love to kind of like turn them down kind of low, just because you have like a calm sense in the classroom, so there's lots of light options. I team teach with my teaching partner, who has the classroom right next to me. So we have that great option of that shared door. It's a whiteboard, so you can write on it, you can put things on it, which is really helpful for small groups or really anything. And then we can open up those doors and we can see what's going on in both the classrooms, or our kids can transition to the other classroom through those doors without, going through the hallway and disrupting other classrooms. I enjoy like the layout of this school. I like the wing situation where it's like our grade level is kind of all together. And I think that helps with kind of relationships with the team or even just the students because they're seeing each other. It's kind of exciting because you're starting fresh and like you get a chance to be a part of deciding what that community looks like. So it's exciting, but I think it takes a lot of like thought and effort and being intentional about this is what I want our community to look like. And this is what I'm going to do in the classroom, or this is what I'm going to do with my grade level to get there. I never really felt like it's too many kids, and I felt like we did a really good job of working together and kind of just taking ownership of our classroom or of our grade level and kind of going from there. But I never felt like overwhelmed or kind of stressed with the volume of students.
Because of the triangular shape of the wings, we ended up with a little dead spot at the pinnacle of the triangle. So that was an opportunity to create more shared learning space. This is where they have some furniture for pull-out. The teachers can send a small group out here, or a parent volunteer can work with kids out here in this shared area, and it's visible from the classrooms through the relights.
They also have this big whiteboard surface, that way they can write their lessons on it.
Here you can see another one of the MDF textured wainscots that identifies it as this wing. And we're looking at the typical setup of the pairs of classrooms that each have a project room in between them. The project rooms have doors from each classroom, but also straight out to the hallway so that they can be used for a variety of functions depending on who's using them. And now we're back to the main hallway. The upstairs hallway is jogged and zigzagged in the same way as the first floor. It's a great place to get a good sense of the different murals for the different seasons and to get an overlook onto the shared learning areas when you go past each one. Kevin mentioned that he liked the extra height of the ceilings in the second floor hallway. It just gave the kids a sense of calming down. It probably lowers the noise in the hallway.
Earlier I mentioned that we wanted these hallways to feel like a sense of discovery through these murals and the colors and the connection to the outside. Earlier I was talking to somebody and they mentioned that something that the kids really like about the school is that they feel a lot of freedom. That's something that really touched my heart. I know as a little kid I really craved that freedom. I think as an adult now I do too. And as I'm walking through the building, my internal child is just coming out. I just want to run around and see what I can discover. So I can imagine how the kids can feel as they're inhabiting the school.
We're passing now into the public side of the building, and the music rooms are down here on the first level in this area on either side of the stage. They have, I think they have a strong music program here at the school. And then as you keep walking down the hallway, you get a chance to overlook from the second floor into the commons and get a sense of that connectedness as we move towards the library. Now we're at the end of the main corridor, walking towards the library. We made the entrance to the library very open. There's a little nook available here for reading even outside of the library. And then we have a lot of glazing at the entry.
So as you enter the library, you get a sense of openness. We have the librarian's workroom right here, and it's very open. That way they can have visibility to the whole library. There's the reception desk over here. Back there on that corner, there's the little reading area for quiet time. And then the middle area of the library is filled with stacks with all the books. And then on this end, there's the area for the classroom time. So that's why there's a lot of tables, and they have a screen that they can use. And over here, they have another little quiet area where they can do a little bit of time on the ground and read books on the ground. And there's also the computers for them to do their research about how to find their books. We wanted to have a lot of openness to the hallways, and also a lot of windows to give a sense of a lot of daylight and connection to the outdoors, as that's a theme throughout the whole school.
There is a tiny little bit of a view of Mount Rainier that you might not be able to see today, but that's one of the benefits of having the library up here on the second floor. The circulation desk and the workroom beyond it allows the librarians, no matter where they are, to see everything in the library. And the story time, instead of building in story time steps, we have this reconfigurable stepping furniture that they use. And Arnolfo worked on some daylight modeling to figure out how we could balance daylight and not have too much glare, so we'll have him tell you about that.
So our sunshade studies that we calculated on the southern, eastern, and northern side of the library quickly determined that vertical fin would be more effective. You can kind of see here, we ran that across the whole mullion and expanded it as much as we could within a good budgetary determination on the design. And the sunlight was still going to be an issue on the southern side, as you can kind of see here in the afternoon. And we ended up providing 3 different zones of roller shades, sunshades that they'll be able to control along the south and the east, as you can see here. These elements were going to help the librarian or the teachers to be able to set up these areas into a movie theater area or reading room as well. As we leave the library, you can and walk downstairs to the main entrance. You can see a series of logs on your left. And these logs are a physical representation of what existed here before the school. And we wanted to take a series of slices in different depths and different ages of trees to be able to show the students what was here before. And if you look up to the skylight area, you can see a little bit of the depth and the light hitting the different thicknesses to really bring this whole area to life.
So this is the end of the long corridor, and this is where you get to exit the building because it's recess time and you get to play outside.
And this is what leads you directly into the covered play. We attached the covered play to the building, being that it was going to be at the front of your approach to the site. We wanted it to be a cohesive design, and we attached it to the building to keep that continuity of the design. You can also see that this is another area where we use the yellow color as an accent. We wanted to do that so that as you approach the building, that really caught your attention, and that's where you really start to notice the building. And next to the covered play, you start to notice the administration on that side and the library above, which becomes kind of a beacon for the building and becomes your welcoming space as you approach the site and the building.
Yeah, the playgrounds are out here. They're colorful and inviting with the rubberized surface, which is recessed at the little kids' playground and raised at the larger kids' playground. You can also see the activity right now of pickup happening and kids getting loaded into parents' cars. If we swing around, we'll see the large play field that was also part of the design and creates the entry to the school. It's under drained, and there's a track that runs all the way around the outside for walking and biking. So that's it, the end of our tour. Thank you so much for watching the video, and we hope to be able to see you in person very soon.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.